Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be making a raw cashew dip. So this time of year, it's about early May here in Ontario. I'm in a growing zone 4, possibly 5A, but I think we behave a little closer to a growing zone 4. But despite that, I actually have lots of perennial culinary herbs that are ready to be used in making delicious foods, including this raw cashew dip. So I've got some thyme that I've harvested from the garden. I have oregano already. I've got lots of chives, and I have a little bit of sage as well. So I'm going to be using these herbs in this recipe. I'm going to post a link to the recipe below. It is on my blog. And so you can print it off there. Use what you have available to you. If you've got rosemary and basil and all of these delicious other herbs available, definitely use those. But the first thing we're going to need is 2 cups of raw cashews, and they do have to be soaked. You want to soak them for at least 8 hours overnight, or you can soak them during the day, whatever, but you're going to want at least 8 hours in good clean water, and then you're going to strain them out and put them, set them aside in a bowl, and then we'll prep our herbs. So as I mentioned earlier, I have a collection of some oregano, some sage, and some thyme from the garden. I also have some chives. So you're going to want about 1/4 cup of chopped fresh herbs. I haven't done this with dried, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to. So the trick here is you don't really want a lot of stem in your herbs, like in your thyme and your oregano. So what I like to do, and this is how I process all my culinary herbs, is you want to hold it the opposite way. So if it grows up this way, you want to hold it, and then you just strip. Whoops. Of course it doesn't work because I've got the camera rolling. Let's try another one. You're just going to run your hands along the stem and pull the leaves right off, and then discard the stem. So I'm going to do that with my thyme and oregano, and then I will get to chopping. So I have my herbs all separated and ready to chop, but the first thing I want to do is to puree my cashews. So I'm going to dump them into my food processor, and you're going to need liquid of some kind. So this is where you have the option for this to become a fermented dish if you'd like. I had my husband pour off some of our fermented pickle brine. So we can use that. You can use water kefir if you'd like. You can use the liquid from homemade sauerkraut if you'd like. Or you can just use spring water if you don't want it to be fermented or you don't have access to any of those. So I'm going to start. I have about 3/4 cup poured out here, but I'm going to start with just a little bit less. You can always add more, but you can't take away. And we want it to be a nice, smooth, creamy consistency. Often soaked raw cashews are used as a dessert substitute for cheese. So you're trying to go for that sort of cream cheese sort of consistency. So it's going to get a little loud, but you can take a look, and we'll mute the camera for this part. So this is the kind of consistency and texture you're going for. It almost looks like a cream cheese. So at this point, this is when you would add in either 1 clove of garlic that has been pressed. My food processor, you could try putting it in whole, but I find I end up with really big garlic chunks if I do that. The alternative to this is if you happen to have access to fresh garlic scapes right now, you could chop up 1 garlic scape and add it in. So I'm going to blend this up one more time, making sure that the garlic is evenly distributed, and then I'll get to chopping my herbs. So I'm just chopping up my herbs here. I find you get a more uniform consistency in terms of distributing the fresh culinary herbs if you chop them first and then put them into your food processor. And I also, if you're noticing, I'm not chopping up my chives. The reason for this is I find that the mezzaluna, which is what this knife is, just pulverizes them. So I'll use scissors and chop them in there afterwards. So alternatively, you can use garlic powder if you don't have access to fresh garlic. or you just don't want to work with fresh garlic, or you don't have garlic scapes. So these are chopped nice and fine now. It's pretty close to 1/4 cup, but this recipe is very much to taste. So, you know, taste as you go. Make sure you're liking what you're making. You can just use straight rosemary if you want to make a rosemary dip, straight oregano. You can see where I'm going with this, right? So I'm just going to sweep my herbs into my food processor and onto my floor. I'm really good at that. And then you're gonna add just a 1/2 teaspoon or so of salt, and I'm gonna be using our green herbal salt that we made, and I highly recommend you check out the video that I made on this. This made fabulous gifts over the holiday season, and it's a great way to use up some of your culinary herbs. So I tend to just measure-ish, add a little bit in, and then using my scissors, I'm going to finely chop up my chives. When it comes to chives, honestly, scissors are your best friend. I find them the fastest way, and they don't get as bruised and pulverized as they do with a knife. I actually find that scissors are my favorite kitchen tool. So once I'm done this, I'll show you the last step. So now that I have all my herbs chopped and my chives cut up, the last step is just to give your food processor a couple of quick pulses so that all of your herbs are evenly distributed. Just take a look. Oh, it smells so good. And it is absolutely ready. So as you can see, this does make quite a lot of dip, so feel free to half the recipe if you'd like. And just as a reminder, the link to the recipe that's on my blog is in the description box below. This is delicious with crackers. It's really good on sandwiches and in wraps. Pretty much anything that you would use a cream cheese type spread for, you're going to love this raw cashew dip. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And until next time, this is Correne from Spirea Herbs, wishing you health and wellness.